Hey, welcome to Red's Super Cool Metal Podcast, Episode 2. I'm here with Ben and Chase from a new metal band called the Lucidia Project. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen.
Absolutely, a joy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. All right, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so just real quick, I've checked the Metal Archives page for the band. It seems like you guys are all new to making music. Is this like a band that you've been wanting to do for a while, or is it just recently you've had the inspiration? Have you dabbled in any previous musical projects that aren't listed on the site?
Well, I'm not new to making music. But in regards to like music in general, I started piano lessons when I was 9,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to college for vocal performance and music theory and everything. But this is my first like real like moving forward with a metal band in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do you want to try to answer that?
Sure. I've been doing music kind of like Chase. I've been doing music since I was, 3 years old. It's part of what I do. Um, I was in a few different local bands back when I was a little younger. I took some time off basically to, got married, raised a few kids,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of getting back into it now. So it's more of a return to music for me. And nothing that I was in before was real huge or anything, but I've played in a few different groups and had a lot of fun with it before.
Oh, that's good.
I've been in
Go.
I've been in other bands before, but nothing that was serious either. Like I was my last project was not, I wasn't running or leading anything. It just sort of never took off or moved forward or even moved into like a demo stage or anything. But we did write a lot of songs. I don't know. I kind of took a break to work on other work on another profession, and then got inspired by a friend and moved forward and decided to create the Lucidia Project, and then met Ben, and that is how we got going here.
Good. Well, like, were those previous bands you guys were in, were they like metal adjacent, or just general music stuff, or some other genre?
I was in more bands that ranged from punk rock to alt rock, indie kind of stuff. On the heavier side of those genres, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily metal itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine was more of a prog rock
Oh.
kind of deal. Wasn't really like a metal or a hard rock or alternative. We had metal influences, but it was like I don't. We were trying for like some sort of prog thing.
Mm. I mean, you definitely have a lot of prog in the Lucidia Project, but we're going to touch on that in a little bit. So, Speaking of the Lucidia Project, what does that name mean? Is that like is that like a reference to like lucid dreaming, or is just a name that sounded cool? Like, how did you come up with that name?
So lucida
Oh,
is
lucid.
the Italian word that not Italian, Latin word for brightness, light, clarity, that kind of thing, like like luminescence, kind of this idea of like shining light upon something.
Mm.
And I was looking up derivatives of that word, and I came across the word Lucidia, which is an Italian name.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept behind the name and just the band in general is to really just sort of like shine light upon darkness,
Mm.
because we talk about, and definitely in this past release and in the next couple releases for sure, but the whole idea of the band is to have this idea of like we're going to talk about dark, deep stuff and shine light and truth upon it, and then you know make dualistic music that represents that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was also kind of looking for something that would fit with more of a metal type of appeal, but also an alternative appeal as well, because part of what makes our project sound the way it does is a lot of the alternative influences we bring in. So I think of like the project part as the alternative
Mm.
to Lucidia. So you put all that together, it is the Lucidia Project to shine light upon darkness through our music.
Yeah. hence the title, The Twilight Affliction. That seems, yeah. I
Exactly.
Yeah, because like your themes are darkness, hope, pain, and poetic. That's what's listed. So that is pretty fitting. All right, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. It seems like so if from what I understand, like seems like due to Chase and Ben, you guys are like the leaders of the band, right? So like are like the other guys in your band, like are the other guys in your band, are they friends? Are they people who joined because they shared similar music goals and they had the technical ability need? Like do you two manage the majority of the songwriting?
Yeah. I mean, initially we were just looking for people who obviously chemistry between band members is important. So we wanted people who we could get along with, but they weren't. We didn't know any of the rest of the members beforehand. They weren't friends who we slotted into the band. We looked for band members, but who we enjoyed being with and spending time with, because we don't want it to be a source of friction in the band. So,
so there's like a lot of harmony between you all.
Yeah. This lineup definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We, and in regards to like leadership, right? Like it's in primary songwriting, it's like Ben and I do a lot of songwriting together just because it just works out that way. Him and I just work really well together as songwriters. But we also, bring in Garrett, who does a lot in regards to guitar work, and so does Dan. And then, Aaron hasn't had too much of a contribution yet, but he puts in his input as well. It's, in general, like we have a vision for something, right? Because we have a direction that we're going in, but everybody's input is welcome. And if it all works to create something cohesive, then absolutely we'll throw it in. And then sometimes some things don't work. Sometimes I've got ideas that don't work out. It's really more about the song and how the song is progressing and what it needs.
Yeah.
We take in all ideas from everybody, but we're really judicious with the scalpel, cutting things out and editing what doesn't work. So.
Yeah.
So do you guys like make the final call on that, or is it like it has to be like a group agreement on that?
I would say Chase gets veto power on most things, and my opinion has some weight. That would be the way I'd put it.
Well, it seems like you guys have a pretty good system going on over there. And that actually kind of leads into the next question. Speaking of songwriting, so, I mean, you already kind of touched on this, but how does the process work? You guys have 3 guitarists, sort of like Iron Maiden does. So, like, do all contribute riff ideas and build from there? And, like, how about when it comes to adding the symphonic elements? Seems like you guys already touched on that in the previous answer, though.
I mean, for some clarity, I have done guitar work for us in the past, but at this point, I'm just doing bass. So there's the 2 guitar players. I will still throw out riff ideas occasionally, but for the most part, those come from the guitars. Yeah. A lot of times what we do is we start with more the song structure, the chord structure, and that sort of thing that we can work around. And then that gives
the big picture
and a backbone for the guitar players to write riffs around. So they have a starting point, and then we go from there.
And it's kind of just like, when I kind of approach it, it's mostly like, what is the really important aspect of what makes a song a song? So for me, it's like chords and a melody, like, and lyrics, and how do we like work on everything else, which is the arrangement. So when we bring the guitars in, and when we bring in, other people to think on these projects, it's like they can kind of carve their own idea within an idea, so to speak.
And so like that's like how, and then like do you have like the riffs first, and then like you add like all the symphonic elements later? So like the riffs are the backbone, and then that's where like that's when you decide, okay, we'll put this here as far as the symphony is concerned.
We get the band first.
Yep.
We gotta. So that's kind of like my philosophy with because I know a lot of symphonic metal bands, they kind of like, it's, if you take away the symphonic stuff, the song doesn't really hold up, right? It's like it sounds like there's a big hole in the production or in the arrangement, And for this project, I want it to be a situation where you can take away the symphonic stuff, and take away the, the atmosphere, all of it. The song would still hold up,
Yeah. Well, that's
and it would still
good
sound like,
Go on.
yeah. Yeah, and then once we got all that taken care of, and I've got vocal melodies and I've got harmonies figured out too, then I sort of like figure out, okay, where can I take the orchestra? Because I do a lot of the orchestration. Where can I take the orchestration and sort of double up on harmonies or double up on melody here, and or create a counter melody on top of whatever is going on within the guitars or within the overall song on top of it? Or do I just like hold out chord progressions in conjunction just to add a little bit more to the overall progression of the song? So it's more, I don't use like AI or any kind of like program to help me with all that stuff. I sort of just, it's one of those things where I have to like literally sit down and like take pen and paper and like write out what I'm thinking.
Well, it seems like you
Then
consider every single element. Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, and in order for me to do that, I have to have the whole song done. Like I have to have, everybody else has to have their part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it seems like that seems very very intricate. I really like and respect that, because you got some bands, they're like, okay, we got the riff, just one take, all right, good, don't worry about the arrangement, it just sounds good. So a lot of people, like a lot of the more sophisticated side of metal, shows how much artistic merit goes into what you make. So that's like that's really that does kind of stand out, and that does kind of lead me into the next question. So like, because you say you're on your Blue Sky, your band is for fans of Catatonia, Evanescence, Nightwish, Within Temptation, Paradise Lost, Placebo, Insomnium Toriamos, and Tool. And I've enjoyed most of those bands, and I can tell those influences of some bands are very visible in your music. So did you grow up on that stuff? Is that like what made you inspired you mostly to do this type of music with your metal? And a lot of 2000 era vibes on your material, I noticed.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, I love all those bands and all those artists. And just there's something about all of those musicians that just really spoke deeply to me. And then the other side of it too is like when I met Ben, he introduced me to bands like Russian Circles and like If These Trees Could Talk and Placebo and all these like post rock and alternative groups that I just never heard before. And I thought to myself, there is just some elements here that really fit with what I want to create, because there's so much atmosphere and so much like cinematicness. You can create the cinematic sound without the strings, without the orchestra. So it's like you create symphonic metal without necessarily needing the symphonic metal part. so I just, so we also bring in a lot of post rock into our sound, which is I think needed. Like I was listening to If These Trees Could Talk last week, and it's just, the music is just so, it's all instrumental. It's not, there's very few of these bands have any vocals involved, but it's just so like minimalist and beautiful. And I just want to have more of that in what we're doing. And I think we got that across with the Twilight Affliction. But we're going to pursue more of that into our full length. Yeah, no, definitely those bands plus new influences definitely inspire what we're doing and why we're making music.
Oh, that's good. Ben, do you have anything to add?
I mean, for me, they weren't necessarily like the bands listed initially weren't what I grew up listening to. I was, I'm a little bit older, so I was listening more to the alt rock grunge wave of things and a lot of punk and that sort of stuff when I was growing up. But it's as those bands kind of came into my consciousness, they've been on a constant rotation for me. And then, like Chase said, I've gotten really heavily into the post rock, post metal kind of scene with the instrumental stuff as well. So
Yeah, it also sounds like there's some like modern melodic death metal in there, especially stuff like Scarred Symmetry and Dark Tranquility. Would you agree with that assessment? Are you familiar with those types of bands, like those that's modern Swedish melodic death metal?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dark Tranquility is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, I could definitely sense a lot of Dark Tranquility on your first album.
Yeah, Insomnium and Dark Tranquility are big in regards to the more extreme side of us. They're definitely the bigger influence for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, go on,
Alongside
go on.
like Paradise Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying. I was just like saying, yeah. Go on.
No, like Paradise Lost also plays a big role in what how I see extreme music too. Because I mean, they run the gamut of everything from like pure death doom to gothic metal to kind of cool or weird electronic phase they had, and then now they're back to this extreme death doom style, and now they're kind of coming back to sort of like icon era gothic metal with their latest album so far. So it's just it's interesting to see how they've cycled through, and yeah, big inspiration too.
On the topic of like, well, you mentioned Dark Tranquility, but I think there's a lot of parallels also with Scar Symmetry, Chase. A lot of parallels between you and Christian Alvestam, I believe his name. I think that's how you pronounce it in Swedish. Like he also did like a lot of harsh vocals and clean vocals for his projects. So have you listened to like his project Solution 45? That stuff like rings very similar to your stuff.
I have not.
I think you would enjoy it.
I didn't actually. I've never heard of them before this interview. I did have to like listen. I did listen to one song after I read the questions you sent, and it was. I was thinking to myself like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of that there, but I'd never heard of them before. I just know that with like clean singing and harsh vocals, like I take more of a inspiration from sort of like the death doom um versus like kind of like Swallow the Sun sort of approach, where the vocalist there does do clean vocals and he does the harsh vocals. Yeah, but no, it's interesting to hear other people's comparisons because people have compared me to all kinds of artists and singers that I've never even like heard of, and thinking, okay, who's this guy?
And it's always fun because that gives me somebody else to check out and new music to listen to. So thanks.
Yeah, you're never gonna run out of metal. People say even no matter how deep you are into metal, just music in general, there's always gonna be like 1,000 other bands you would love. So that's why I don't even consider even the. I mean, unless you've been in metal for like 50 years, there's so many bands you have to check out. Some might not be so great, but others are definitely worth consideration. So yeah, I think you guys would really enjoy Scar Symmetry and Solution 45 and stuff like that. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I've written them down to check out as soon as we're done here. So thanks.
All right. Yeah, let me know if you like it. All right, yeah, and given your influences, have you also considered bringing in like a female vocalist for an album just to try it out? Like I'm sure you guys are aware, like in a lot of old school gothic metal stuff, there was like that Beauty and the Beast dynamic that was you have the male vocalist that does harsh vocals and you have the female operatic vocals. So like, would you consider doing something like that, or like that's not really in the realm of what you're interested in doing?
So okay, interesting story with all that.
Oh, okay.
So okay, originally when we first started this band, I didn't know how to do harsh vocals when I first started this band. So I was mostly singing, and I've got this operatic training, and I was going to approach it from kind of that direction too. We had a guitar player who was only with us for maybe a few months, who was a harsh vocalist, and one thing over after another didn't work out. But we were in the middle of all that. We were working on sort of our first like real EP, Requiem, and I was just sort of like thinking, okay, how do we? I wrote this harsh vocal part, and I can't do these vocals. So how do I how do I do this? So I just, relied on my classical training and some YouTube videos, and I attempted it, and it's just something that's grown with me ever since. And I don't know, like I don't for me, like when I do harsh vocals, it's really just to kind of like express certain things in the lyrics that I can't express when I just sing. Um and I I haven't really considered, adding a female vocalist like singing on top of what we're doing. I don't know if it would fit.
I believe in our ability to make something like that work. It isn't something that we've talked about as of yet. I don't think that we have any objection to bringing in other musicians or other ideas. But at this point, I don't know that it's something that we're looking for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with what we've got in our lineup, and it might add something, but I like Chase's vocals. We'll stick with him.
Chase, I want to. So, like, how long have so from the sounds of it, you're completely self-taught in terms of doing harsh vocals?
Self-taught, yes, but I'm not self-taught with vocals in general. I've got yeah, I had to rely on a lot of like self-feedback on how to like, because I do mostly false chord screaming. Mm-hmm. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and relied on my own knowledge of classical singing and opera and how to like breathe properly and how to like utilize parts of my vocal anatomy that are just not there. But honestly, the thing that really helped me find that placement was just that frustrated sigh that I make whenever I'm at work.
So like, so it's kind of amazing how like you're trained in like operatic vocals, but use that training to do something that's a lot harsher.
It's not so okay. I know some people think that, oh, it's so different. It's the onset of action is different. Where the sound is originating is different, but so much of like in regards to when we're thinking about acoustics and we're thinking about breath compression and we're thinking about vowel shape and how the throat is shaped and how we move the tongue and relax the tongue. All that stuff applies to harsh vocals, especially false chord, because it's a whole different. Even though where the sound is originating from is different, everything else is very much the same.
I actually do want to ask: have you ever like in all your practicing, have you ever like blown your voice out, or like have you always been like extremely careful when you do it?
I mean, I've got to be careful with it.
You don't want to. Like,
yeah, I don't want to do any damage, and I've worked really hard on the classical voice that I have. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hurt myself in that regard. Whenever I start to feel tired, I have to like sit down and like to ask myself, okay, what am I doing wrong? Yeah. I'm constantly asking myself, okay, how do I feel? What am I doing something wrong technically? Do I need to reevaluate or realign something or whatever? And and I've, especially compared to the early days when I first started doing this, it's definitely gotten much healthier for me. Mm-hmm. But definitely first starting out, it takes a lot of like practicing in like short bursts and then taking a break and then short burst again and then taking a break. And then you kind of slowly build up the muscle memory and the sensation, and you can kind of start to work with that. The more familiar you get with the way you process all kinds, and this is true for anything with voice, not just harsh vocals, anything with voice. So
I mean, a lot of people treat it as you have to treat it as an instrument. So like, if you have like any damage, would that be like permanent damage? Because like I mean, some people say, oh, it's not permanent, and I've seen other people say like, well, if you do it long enough, it will be permanent. If you blow out your voice. I
agree with the latter. Oh yeah, the latter part definitely, because you can kind of, and depending on how resilient someone's voice is, you can get away with a lot until you can't get away with it anymore.
Oh yeah. I actually heard. Sorry.
No, I was just tying up a thought, but you can go ahead.
I actually heard of all like vocal styles to do, I heard like black metal is the most risky to do, but you're not doing that. You're more focused on death metal. Folk
No,
metal.
it's mostly focused on death, and maybe I kind of at this stage where I'm at, I kind of go into sort of the mid to maybe an upper mid frequency. But that high frequency, I mean, what's happening when you're doing that is everything is just, you have to think about that space being smaller and smaller and smaller to get that high pitch. And it's hard to do, find the sensation initially when you're just learning how to do the harsh vocals, because it's a whole other sensation. Think about when you're singing and you're trying to listen and you're trying to sing high notes for the first time. It's a similar concept. Only with the harsh, you run the risk of like shredding something if you're not doing the onset of action properly.
Yeah, good. I hope that's a good message for anyone watching this who wants to get into doing harsh vocals. All right. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Next question. Would you? I mean, this actually does tie back into vocalists. So would you guys ever consider performing live? Because like I mentioned before, Symmetry. They had one guy do harsh vocals and clean vocals, and one of the reasons why he didn't like doing that live is because it was really hard to switch from clean vocals to harsh vocals on the spot. And that's why now they have one guy on harsh vocals and one guy on clean vocals. So would you ever consider performing live? Would you think that sort of thing might be a barrier to that?
We're actually set up and rehearsing for live performances now. Not sure exactly when that's going to start, but it is on our short-term roadmap, yes. Some of the details on how that's going to work are still being worked out, but I do have some vocal experience, nowhere near what Chase does. So
You sound good.
I sound okay.
You sound good.
In comparison. But yeah, I got a good teacher next to me here, so he's giving me some pointers, and so hopefully I can carry a little bit of the load to help it make it work a little better in a live performance.
In regards to like harsh vocals, like switching back and forth, like we've had several rehearsals already, and even when I'm in the studio, like, I mean, I don't really have a problem with the switching back and forth. We have a couple songs where we do that heavily, but most of what I'm doing on our songs is clean singing.
Yeah.
So that is like that is obviously where I'm mainly focusing, but I don't know. I guess the sensation where everything feels like when I do it, it's just so different from when I sing. It's almost like a switch that turns on and off.
No, so
for me,
pretty much second nature to you now, then.
Yeah.
All right, so
definitely.
Yeah. I also want to ask. So you already have a tour plan. Do you? I mean, are you allowed to like give the list of bands that you're touring with, or is that top secret for now?
Oh, we're not touring. It's local. Oh. Like we're local in Fargo.
Okay. Oh, so
no, we're not planning a tour right now. We're just doing local gigs.
Oh, okay. Yep. So you're not going to come to New York anytime soon. Well, maybe.
It's hard to make space in everybody's schedules for that kind of thing. It's got work and lives, and it's hard to justify that.
I mean, if you ever, I'm not saying you have to. If you ever maybe get some like bigger tickets. I mean, but then again, you have lives to get back to, so it's hard to really make time for it. But it's okay. Let's see. All right. So moving on. So Metal Archive says that your themes are darkness, hope, pain, and poetic. So I actually want to ask both of you guys, are any of those tracks you find more personal? Any you find you want to discuss more? I mean, because you guys talk before how much how much thought and effort you put into pretty much every part of every song. So I guess I want to know which ones are most personal to you, and which ones you think deserve more recognition compared to the others. Or is it like a picking your own
That's a tough
kind of thing?
Yeah, you're which one of my kids do I like the best? No, that's not. There are some that I think for me they vary. Like one week a certain song will hit me harder, and the next week a different one rises to the surface for me. And In terms of personal meaning, it depends on who and where I am at any given moment. So it shifts constantly.
Same.
So
Copycat.
And like in itself, like all of those songs are just like ripped straight from like my diary. Like I just like poured all that I could like emotionally into them, lyrically and everything. So I guess it depends on like what stage of grief I'm in. Just kidding. it's no, it's very it's hard because I feel like that whole EP just like it all fits together. It's like, and I look at it as like the prelude to like this memoir that I'm writing in regards that's in album form. So it's yeah.
So is it like about one particular? I mean, Chase, you I take it you write most of the lyrics, or is it like
I write
all of them? All right. So
yeah,
this is
I write
like
all the lyrics.
so maybe in a way this is like a bit of a personal diary. So like, have you been like? I mean, you said like these are from your diary. So is it like in the sense that like this is like from going on years, or like maybe just like a relatively recent thing?
Years.
Year. Oh, okay. So this is
Years.
so this is finally something coming into it's. So this is like sort of a manifestation of your inner thoughts and insights. Oh, that's a nice way of looking at it, actually. That's good.
Yeah, it's sort of my like letting my voice be heard for the first time,
And it feels
so to speak.
all right. So yeah, so far you've released one album and a couple of EPs, with your first full-length album, Twilight Affliction, being released back in June. So you got any new stuff in the works? You always in the process of creating new material? Like even when you're at work, like you're thinking of songs like, oh my god, this sucks, or something like that?
The music never turns off in my head. It's always being churned out. But after we finished the Twilight Affliction, we kind of slowed down a little bit on deliberately working on things. We needed a little bit of a rest, but I think we're ramping back up into, because as we kind of said earlier, there's a lot of deliberation and construction that goes into our songs. So we've had a little bit of a breather, and I think we're getting back onto the pattern of consistent and very serious work on the next album.
Yeah, and the Twilight Affliction, it's I know some people call it an album. I call it a longer EP because it's only 6 songs, but that's last one is like 8 minutes long. But it is, I mean, it's I guess it kind of feels like an album because it's very like the production and just all the like freaking work that we put into those songs, and just like how we were able to like record them and everything. It feels like an album because it just feels like a snapshot into someone's life, right? It's
a cohesive unit.
It's a very cohesive piece of work, and it's a good like introduction to what we are and what we do, and what to expect, going forward for something that's maybe 11 or 12 songs long.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that'd be interesting to see. I've noticed that I've always noticed that like in terms like usually have like after that like that first like creative project, afterwards like most of your best ideas come from when you're not even focusing on necessarily making music. They just come to you when you're just living your day-to-day life. I'm sure like you probably feel that sort of thing when you just when you go about not necessarily working on music.
It just hits me sometimes. Like it just like I'll just be in my apartment like cleaning or playing with my cats, and then just one day I'll just like hear something and I'll go to my piano and just write out a chord progression and then develop it, and then it just and then one idea turns into 5, and then I'll have a whole batch of something to work with for a later time, and then it kind of fizzles out for a moment, and then I save it, and then I come back to it and then work on it more, and then I bring Ben into the picture, or Garrett, or whoever, and then or Dan, and we just sort of like add stuff to it, or they write some riffs within the chord progression, and then we sort of build it up.
Kind of the same for me. I have my computer set up to record ideas and at any moment, just because you never know when you're going to wake up at 3 a.m. with something looping through your head that you just need to get down. So
like you're in the hypogonic state, or however you pronounce it, and like that's when like a lot of artists claim they have like their best ideas come to them. Like I forgot, I think it
Yep.
was Salvador Dali or something, where like he would be falling asleep with keys in his hand, and then like when he dropped the keys, then he would write down the ideas that he immediately had.
It's a good idea. Might drive my wife a little nuts, but good idea.
It's worth it. Hey man, it's for art. And speaking of art, speaking of art, what are your main goals as musicians? Because like you said like you guys have day to day life, you got family, you got jobs. So like, is this seems like to be something more of like just mostly? I mean, you definitely want like people to listen to it, especially since like it's very well made stuff. So like it's definitely more. To me, it seems more just like an avenue for artistic expression than anything else. So, what are your goals as musicians, and how would you say that? Would you say my assessment is accurate?
Semi-accurate for me. I for this project, I want it to reach as much people as I possibly can let it reach, because I know that there are people out there that might be struggling in life and might want to hear another person work through it too. And if anything from any of these songs reaches anybody or touches anyone, then I feel like I've done my job.
Mm-hmm.
But to reach more people, we need more of a following, and promote us, for me to promote us and all that stuff. So it's my goal is to reach as many people as we can with this music,
I definitely think you can.
while also
Oh, sorry, go on.
like maintaining a semi-private life. I don't know if I can do that.
Chase wants everything.
Can't have your cake and eat it too. What about you, Ben?
For me, this is kind of what you said. This is my creativity needed an outlet, and this is it. I want to make art, and I kind of need to. It's part of who I am, and so anything that I can create is a win for me.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I'm less altruistic.
Say that again. Say that again. You kind of cut out.
I'm less altruistic than Chase is.
Hey man, we all make art for our own reasons. So I think your reasons are way better than just I want to make $1 million, not have to worry about anything else for the rest of my life. All right.
Oh my gosh! Who is making $1 million in metal,
No
other
one
than
these
like Metallica?
Well, yeah, I've kind of always thought that like the days of making it big as a metal band are like that's like those are kind of over. But you can still get a decent underground following. But like getting as big as even just like Megadeth or Slayer, I think that is like those days are far behind us, unfortunately. No matter how good you are.
That's okay, because it means that if you are doing it, it means you really love it.
Yeah, and that's when you make the best stuff, when you actually love what you're doing instead of just doing it just for a profit. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So like now, all right, let's get on to some miscellaneous questions. These are questions I generally ask every person I interview, or every person I will interview rather. So like, do you listen? I mean, it seems like you guys have a lot of influences. So you listen to a lot of genres of metal, or do you mostly stick to stuff adjacent to the metal you like?
I pull in everything. I like to try out all the metal genres. Even if it doesn't sit well with me, I'll listen to half an album just to understand it. I've always kind of deliberately listened to music that didn't immediately speak to me, just to give it a chance. And that applies outside of metal too. I listen to a wide range of things whenever I can.
It's more like how am I feeling that day kind of deal. It's not I don't like a lot of my genres that I'm into are tend to be what we've listed on our profiles and what we're influenced by. But I mean, some days I'll come across like some avant-garde thing that just makes me go, I'm gonna put that on repeat for like an hour. and then I'll be I'll be satisfied, and then I'll move on to like, I don't know, Florence and the Machine or some or Bjork or something like that, to kind of like I don't know, give my ears a break.
I noticed that, like, I've talked with like a lot of metalheads, and like, they're like, they've often come up to me and say, like, dude, I think I'm getting tired of metal, and I'm like, I'm not sure if you're getting tired of metal. I think you just need to cleanse your palate a little. How about you listen to some classical music for once?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I listen to everything too. I mean, I listen to jazz, I listen to classical. Classical's a big one because we won my education, and also artists like Philip Glass and John Cage and John Adams are big inspirations as well. And then, when I get tired of Philip Glass or any other classical music, I'll go to Behemoth for a week.
Yeah.
It's, whatever.
There's so much music. I mean, music is so democratized these days. There's really no excuse to like not explore more music. Well, that's the way I see it.
100%.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next miscellaneous question. So this is a question I like to ask a lot of metalheads. You have to bring 3 albums to a desert island. That's like everyone knows that question. But here's the catch. You cannot bring anything that is either metal or metal adjacent. So you can't bring any metal or punk or hard rock or anything heavy, really. You can bring rock, but as long as it's not on the heavier side. Which albums are you bringing?
I'll go first. Voice for Pele from the Choir Girl Hotel and Scarlet's Walk, all by Tori Amos.
Oh, okay. I have not heard
Easy.
any of those albums. So I'll have to give those albums a listen. What about you? Want to like explain just like a quick like a 2-sentence explanation, or like like, no, this is what I'm bringing, no questions asked.
This is what I'm bringing. Tori Amos is my biggest, like, if I could like cancel it, if no artist ever existed in the world and only Tori Amos existed, I'd be happy. I mean, I love her music, her lyrics, her musicianship, everything is just phenomenal with her. She's one of those artists that will challenge you intellectually and emotionally, and she's also a beast on piano and influenced a lot of my piano playing as well. Her lyrics just cut through. I mean, there's just no other way to describe it. Yeah, she's not metal adjacent, but she's more metal than a lot of metal out there.
So
and
Tori Kelly.
I'm going to stand on that. Yeah. What was that?
Tori Kelly is her name?
Tori Amos.
Oh, Tori Amos. Okay, I was looking it up. I'm like, I think I got the wrong one. Tori Amos. Oh, okay. Sorry, you were saying something else before. Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, she is more metal than any metal head or any metal person out there than a lot of them, and I will stand on that.
That's the one hill you're willing to die on in this world.
I will die on that hill.
Well, what about you, Ben? What are the 3 non-metal / non-metal adjacent albums you would bring to the desert island?
Can I just point out that question is pretty cruel?
Hey, look, hey, no one said it would be easy. If I said bring 3 albums, it would be way too easy.
I would start with OK Computer by Radiohead. I don't know if this counts as metal adjacent or not, but I'd probably pull in something by 9 Inch Nails, maybe The Fragile. That's probably their least metalish album, if that qualifies. And then I'd probably want something a little less bombastic and a little more intimate, maybe Elliott Smith's EXO album or Jeff Buckley's Grace, something along those lines. So flip a coin between those 2.
All right. Well, at least see, you were able to answer. Oh, sorry.
Oh, The Cure.
I didn't bring a Cure album, so now I'm mad at myself.
I love The Cure.
4 albums. Fine.
All right, thanks. Disintegration in there. That's good.
So, like, you probably already touched on this, but so what are your favorite bands, either influences or not, and any deeper cut bands you think people ought to check out, whether they're metalheads or not?
That's a tough call because when I listen to stuff, I have no idea how many people know about it. I'm in my own head on it. I don't know if what I listen to is mainstream or, super underground. I don't really know. And who I am a huge fan of changes on a weekly basis too. Lately I've been listening to a lot of Slow Mosa and Mars Red Sky. Those have been on my heavy repeats the last week or two. Um, King Buffalo also. That's kind of been my latest ones. But check back next week and I'll have a different slate of answers for you. So
I'm kind of the same way. Like, people ask me like, "What's your favorite band?" or "What's your favorite film?" Like for me, it's like changing every 2 weeks. So like, I can't work on superlatives like that. But I will say like what I do listen to more often than not. So what about you, Chase?
yeah,
It's hard. Um, and I kind of like break it down like who, like what do they do? Like what are they a good lyricist? Are they a good singer? Are they great guitar player? Are they great pianist? It's hard to come up with just one. I mean, I already mentioned Tori Amos being a big one. Another big one kind of in that vein is Natalie Merchant for me. She was the lead singer of 10,000 Maniacs and had a solo career throughout the 90s and to the early 2000s. And she is just one of the deepest poets I've ever heard. Like her lyrics are just phenomenal. I don't know. And in regards to singers, like Jonas Renske from Catatonia really was a big eye opener for me. Because he's got this like fragile, almost quiet way of singing, but his music, the Catatonia's music is aggressive and atmospheric. And I just thought to myself, this is brilliant. And it totally blew my mind when I heard it for the first time, because I thought, well, shit, I could do this too. So he's been a big inspiration. So is Maynard James Keenan from Tool and A Perfect Circle, and just like there's way too many to speak about.
But I mean,
Yeah.
any artist, like I've seen like some of the best artists. They'll tell you like whether like a piece of art, like the field they're interested in, whether it's bad or good or somewhere in between, you can always learn something from it. So it seems like you kind of have that mentality a bit. Like even if it's like anything that you like, find something of value, that's sort of an influence in some way. All right. So
Yes.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next one. Any advice for people interested in starting a metal band? Just like, or
Do it.
not even just a metal band, just like any artistic project. Oh, sorry, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
All I said was do it.
Just
Action
do it.
is important.
Nike was right on that.
Yep.
Know yourself, know the art that you want to make, know your vision, and stay on the path that you want to be on. Because if you fall to the wayside, or if you listen to somebody who is telling you that, oh, you shouldn't make this because no one's going to like to listen to that, or whatnot, you're going to betray yourself and your whole reason for making music. So listen to yourself, stay true to yourself, make what you want to make, and move forward with that.
I think, well, that does kind of, I think, answer our last two questions here. What are your musical plans for the near and distant future? I mean, you said you already, you're always, in a way, constantly working on the album, and you got like a sort of local tour planned in your area.
We're working on our live show situation. So for the next 2 years, that's the next step. We're also getting ready to film 2 more music videos. And then also in the meantime, with all that stuff, just writing new music, promoting the Twilight Affliction, promoting our websites, promoting our social media, just a lot of like trying to get our name out there more. So because we're independent, so we're doing this all on our own.
All right, great. And this has gone on much longer than I expected. So any closing words from you guys?
No, you've used all my words. No.
Looks like you guys already covered it when we talked about any advice of starting a metal band. But so you said pretty much everything you wanted to say? You sure? This is your last chance.
Man, the pressure. I don't know if I can handle it.
I've said everything I want to say.
Yeah, I'm just gonna repeat: go out there, make music, make art, and like Chase said, be true to who you are. And
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have been fantastic. This was a great interview. Ooh, I was expecting only about 30 minutes, but we went on a lot longer. Not that that's a problem, of course. You guys have been amazing. I want to thank everyone for anyone who was listening to this podcast. I actually have another interview in about 40 minutes, so I'm probably gonna upload this one like maybe today or tomorrow, and then I'll upload the next one like the day afterwards. So yeah. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I guess I'll see everyone next time. Say bye.
Thank
awesome,
you.
thank you.
All right. Good.